is you are basically just here. Let me get rid of that because Zoom always pops up these things that mess you up when you start recording. Um, so a business collaboration is really two or more businesses cooperating together for the benefit of everybody. So the example I use is, if you're in a small town, you have a retail business and you're competing against Walmart, how do you do that? And now a single small business, maybe selling some clothes or something like that, probably not going to compete against Walmart head on. But if you have a collaboration, then yes, you can figure out how to do that and get people to come to you instead of break that Walmart habit. So that's kind of a brick and mortar type example. For a service business, it's really kind of, you're cooperating to take your experience as a consultant, for instance, and bringing somebody else on the team. So you're forming a collaborative team to provide a much better service to the clients than they could get just by going to, say a big nationwide consulting firm. And so that is collaboration. We're working together and we have an agreement that we're going to work together and we're going to provide services or goods to our customers and basically provide those goods and services or services in lieu of them going with a bigger company, faceless, soulless national company. Keep
I
it
understand
local
you
is what
there.
I'm saying.
I definitely understand what you're saying. Okay, to get into these the questions I actually have written down here. I asked that because I'm nosy. I got to throw in some stuff in there for myself so I can know the stuff. Um, what are the key ingredients for a successful small business collaboration?
Number one is trust. You need to trust your partner, and because I'm not a big one on having these. I really think a big formal written agreement already says you don't trust the person. So I want to work with people that I know and trust and not don't necessarily need to have a big formal agreement. We'll work out terms and how everybody's going to get paid and things like that. And sometimes you need a little bit of an agreement to do that. But if you're doing a 25-page contract to have a collaboration with somebody, then that might not be the person you want to team with. So, it helps to get something down on paper so you know what the terms are and how people are going to get paid and how you're going to bill each other and those types of things. But that's that. But trust is a big part of it because you're really going to be working with that person. There's going to be things come up that you don't foresee or anticipate. So having the trust in the person you're doing business with is going to be critically important because you're going to trust them to deal with things. And also trust is important because you're introducing your collaboration partners to your people that your marketing leads you've got or people you have established business relationships with, and you have to trust them not to undermine or steal your clients. I've done some business collaborations in the past, and I have had, some of these people steal your clients. It's very short-sighted to do that, and it's poor business because, I will never do business with those people again, but there are people like that out there. So trust is really important, and having business partners you can trust, and everybody needs to understand that they operate, that they trust each other and they operate with integrity. So the other thing is integrity. And the classic definition of an integrity is who you are when people aren't looking. And that, when you're not under the microscope or under scrutiny, it's how you operate and your principles that you operate under. And so I'm always looking for people that have integrity in their business dealings. And even if things go south on a particular business transaction, you can and you can trust those people because they have integrity to, if you take a loss on things, then you share that, and it's kind of like, not placing blame and pointing fingers. That's really integrity. And that probably is the business quality I value the most in people is integrity.
I like that. I did expect trust to come up. I did expect integrity, and I can't help but think that that person who took your client really missed out on some other business.
They do. It's very short-sighted to do that. And, I will, it's kind of like, the date you brought to the dance, right? That's first you dance with. You, you don't, you don't run off and dance with somebody else. So that's pretty much the way I look at it. And I find it very short-sighted. And I would never do that, and I'll honor my end of the deal, and I'm going to operate with integrity. And so you want somebody on the other side that is going to operate with integrity also,
Yeah.
or then you have to go to that 25-page agreement. And I'm just getting too old and crotchety to spend a lot of time looking at long agreements and getting into those things. It's not worth it.
Yeah, I understand. Well, let's play one of the videos from DJ Strick and get his take on partnerships. I'm gonna put this on here and make sure I turn on the sound and play it.
Recommendation when it comes to collaboration, I recommend that you leave your ego, the other person's ego, at the door and really have some real communication on what the objective of the collaboration is. Set the foundation for the work that should be done, the expectations between the two. I expected you to do this, I expected you to do that, and if we do these things together, this is the outcome from a profit standpoint that we should get, and this is how we'll structure the split of the profit. And if you communicate clearly, and we have learned that sometimes communicating clearly also includes written communication where there may be a signed contract between the two of you so everybody knows what the expectations are and have signed the document and working towards the biggest amount of profit that you can make through the collaboration. Those are things that I think that will help.
Okay, Thomas. Expectations. I did
think you
assume.
make some good points there. Yeah, that the communication, we were kind of talking about that a little bit. The communication and expectations, I think, are great, and he makes some very good points on that. So
Yeah, I do assume and expect a lot, so it would help for if I wrote things down. Are you
yeah,
like
and
that sometimes?
I am, and sometimes you need to write things down in matter of, but I tend to be a lot more informal, and sometimes I get burned because of it, because I tend to trust people maybe more than I should. So, my default position is to trust people, and based on the world we're living in, maybe that's not always a good assumption, but I like to see you know, I like to be hopeful that people are going to have my same values that I'm doing business with, and that's important,
Yeah.
and we can get into things too, like Christian values. I mean, most of the people I do business with, probably not all, but they will probably have the Christian values too. And if they don't, then they understand where I'm coming from on that. And that goes back to the integrity and just believing in the good in people and that type of thing, that you're gonna the things are gonna work out. And that's kind of what I like to see. And I'm not afraid to talk about that, and people understand that I tend to be a little on the conservative side and the Christian side, and I'm not going to beat up anybody with religion, but they need to know that those are the principles I'm going to operate under in a business environment, my personal environment, whatever. And those are my values. And I would hope that people would respect and honor that. Especially if we're working together. And so that's, and I'm pretty clear on that with folks. So, um, you know, I don't hide that.
It makes
So
sense.
yeah,
I did once host an event for some people who were doing some strange things like chanting, and I got scared. So I didn't ask this stuff up front.
yeah,
Yeah. So that communication is definitely key. Let people know your values. That way, when you're hosting an event, you won't get scared and want to run off. So I'm not sure if any of that ever happened to you, but I definitely wanted to stop what I was doing.
in some
Okay.
strange situations, but it's kind of like you have a filter for those things, and usually, after you've been in the business for as long as I have, you start to get that sixth sense on people's values and stuff, and I think if you're going to be in business together, your values have to align. And that's getting back to the integrity and all that we were just talking about. So alignment of values, and you get that, like DJ Strick said, through communication.
Yeah. So, how can, and you can correct me if I've already said this one, how can businesses identify the right partners to collaborate with? And I know we just said values. So, did we already go over this one? Because I've totally lost my place.
It's no, we didn't per se, although we kind of overlap a little bit here, but it's kind of feeling out the person, if and asking, or if you have if you've had some common business arrangements, and so people can vouch for them, so you understand what their values are, and heck, we got right here in town, we have a Dunkin' Donuts, and I meet a lot of people there. I spent a fair amount of money at Dunkin' Donuts and using their Wi-Fi and stuff, but connecting with people, and sit down over a cup of coffee and discuss stuff, and you can learn a lot in a very relaxed environment, and how you do that. Now, I've done remote things with people. I've done business with people because I'm in Middle Tennessee, and I do business all over the country. So, and particularly a fair amount of business in California. So, I have actually connected up with people I've collaborated with, where I've not met them in person for a while. And, so it's a little bit different process to meet and understand people online, but you can hop on a Zoom meeting, you can on the telephone, and the important thing is to kind of explore how you do things, and understand what their values, their principles are, and if you can trust them, if they have integrity, and you can get that sense. I mean, there are people that may lie to you, and you can usually pick up on that if they're elusive or evasive and on certain things, so you can pick up on that, and that's important. So it's just a little different if you do it online versus in person. But locally, I like to meet people in person, and we just sit down and have a cup of coffee, and now Dunkin' Donuts doesn't have any of the really fancy things that Starbucks does, but that's okay.
I
They got
actually
donuts,
prefer
so
Krispy Kreme. I actually
exactly.
prefer Krispy Kreme.
Okay,
Do you
we
have a
don't have a
Krispy Kreme
Krispy
in
Kreme here in
Middle
town.
Tennessee?
I think we do in Murfreesboro, which is north of me, but my local small town does not. So Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks is what it is. So And
Okay.
I like Dunkin' Donuts because they got a conference room and so I just meet people there and I've done videos there and stuff like that. So I got a good working relationship with Dunkin' Donuts. Big
Nice.
shout out to Dunkin' Donuts. My office away from the office.
Okay. Now, let's play another video from DJ Strick, and he's gonna answer, what are some red flags that indicate a collaboration might not be a good fit? So I'm gonna put that up there. Hopefully I got the right one. Yeah, I think I got the right one.
Hey, I think all of these are really great. And what I would focus on when it comes to collaboration or partnering with someone is start off really small with them. Sometimes from a small business standpoint, yes, it's all about business. So your time, your effort needs to go into making dollars. Okay. Making a profit. That's a better way of saying that, right? You want to profit on the time in business. But when you're starting a partnership with someone, it may be good that you start a project that doesn't automatically have profit on the end of it. Something that you may be collaborating together, whether that's through nonprofit work, whether that's just any other way where the two of you guys you may get paid you may be doing the work together, but the person that's purchasing, the customer, is paying each of you for the part that you play, even though you're working together. So you can see how they work without being responsible for the money. So if the customer is maybe gets upset by some things that your partner does, is not, from the collaboration standpoint, is not on you, and the customer knows that. And you may find a great partner, or you may find out, hey, I don't automatically like the way they do business or way they handle the customer. I'm going to be sure the next time I do this on my own. So I did have a experience with a collaborator, even in live streaming, and we just had two different thoughts about how to live stream long term. And guess what? Because of the long-term idea I had, I'm still chugging along, and I'm not with that partner anymore. We still talk. We're still great friends. But when it came to the collaboration we were doing, they had one thought, I had another thought, and we just separated. And we did it in a way that we can still be friends and talk to each other and still glean from each other. And the door is always open. But we didn't affect the other person's business. Okay, my business went on, his business went on, and everybody's happy. All right, that's just something I want to add to the conversation.
All right, I think you had said something about that before, Thomas. You've worked with someone and you guys had to go your separate ways because they wanted to take your clients. Yeah.
That's one way to exit the relationship. Short-term gain versus long-term loss, and that's part of it. And if you're in business for a while, you're going to find people like that. That's just an expectation. Your filter. Some people are pretty good at schmoozing and all that stuff and building your trust, and then they stab you in the back. No other way to say it. And but then you just kind of. Maybe you get mad about it or whatever, but you move on and it's not worth dwelling on. It's kind of, and you also can't let a bad experience stop you from exploring the collaborative relationships with other people. It's just, there's a few bad actors out there and they don't see the long term, like we do, is we're in it for the long haul. And some of those people, they want to make a quick hit and they don't think about tomorrow. So there are ways to, when you talk about red flags, there's ways to kind of filter that, but sometimes you get fooled. I'll just flat out say it, so, if you're going to be in business for a while, you're going to get a few of those people that when you look back on it, sometimes you say, well, yeah, there was this and this that I should have picked up on, but some people are smooth operators. So yeah, you really have to ask the questions and listen to the answers about what's your value, do you share common values? And like I said previously, if people are a little elusive and stuff, then you may have some questions. And so you got to kind of evaluate that. It's not even what they say, but it's the tone of voice or how they express themselves. And
Hmm.
and so that's part of it. So you not only have to, hear what they say, but how they say it. And so some of those become red flags, obviously, if you know their reputation and they've you know had bad business dealings with other people, you have to determine if it's them or the other person. So checking some of those things out, and most of us, when it comes right down to it, operate in a relatively small niche. So people know people, and you can check things out, really. and and that's why, and if I can flip that on its head, why it's important for us to maintain our own integrity, because if take advantage of somebody, even if it's perceived, then that word gets around and it damages our own reputation. So we need to zealously guard our own reputation in business and make sure we're always doing the right things. And even if it ends up, costing us some money or we don't make a profit on the job, if we're going to live up to our word, then that reputation is going to get around, instead of um, saying, well, too bad, so sad, and take the money and run, you fix the problem. And that's, even if you end up dipping into your own pocketbook, because that if we're in it for the long haul, then our reputation is everything. And so that's kind of flipping it on its head. Here's the bad actors over here we want to recognize. And on the other hand, we want to have the highest level of integrity we can and make sure that people want to seek us out to do business with us because of our integrity. And you're going to attract people that share your values that way, because they're going to look at you and say, this person has integrity. I share values with them. I want to do business with that person. So that's that's part of it. And there's people out there too that, you know, I just, sometimes, this just got a little pet peeve of mine, but you're talking to people and they're dropping an F-bomb every other sentence. And it's just kind of like, holy cow, is this a person I want to do business with? Is this a person I want talking to my clients? And, some people don't mind that, but it really bothers me, because it's communication, how you present yourself. And so I look at that and say, yeah, we don't want to do that. Not that I've ever cursed,
I'm
I have.
laughing, Thomas, because I'm
Yeah.
remembering the time where you told me that you didn't like that, and I was like, "Oh, English is a made up language anyway." And then my son started saying those words, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"I believe you now, Thomas. Those
Yeah.
things are bad."
Yeah. And kind of in private, sometimes I do, but when you're dealing with people, I was on a video call, a webinar the other day about some AI tool I was using, and there was a lady that came on that asked a question, and she just had the foulest mouth, and it's kind of like, I finally had to log off because I said I can't handle this anymore. It's kind of like, holy cow, and the people that were running the webinar didn't seem to mind. And it just said, not the crowd I want to hang out with, because, so that's just, pet peeve of mine. Some people that doesn't bother, but I think, maybe it gets back to the Christian values. Maybe it gets back to, other things, is what you can hear about, understand about a person. So there you go.
So, you know, I'm nosy. So I gotta ask, you've been talking about values for a while. How did you find out what your values were and what to look for in other people? It's not on the list.
I,
I just came up with it because I heard you say values like 3 times.
yeah, yeah, no, part of it is, and that's a really good question. Part of it is just understanding yourself and what you stand for. You know, I find, and I'll go back to the Christian values is, what you align with those and your values are kind of stated right there. We go back to biblical values or Christian values, whatever they are. People that have no moral foundation tend to have fairly loose values. And so, um, some people say, well, religion, they're very strict values. And I don't find that necessarily to be true because we want to hold ourselves up. So that I get a lot of it from that, but it's, what is your sense of right and wrong? Where did you get that from? Sometimes it's our upbringing. Um, Sometimes it's the people we hang around with, and not just business wise, but otherwise. And so if those people have high morals and good standards and those values, you're probably going to adopt those. If you're hanging around with druggies and people are hanging around with street gangs and stuff, probably not going to get good values. And a lot of it starts in our youth, and how you grow up. And being a parent, it's important to build those foundations because it's going to affect a child the rest of their life. Not to say that they can't be influenced by their peers. So, but that's another part of a parent's job is to, you know, not be their kid's best friend, but kind of monitor what kind of people they're hanging around with and making sure they're growing up with good values. And then as we go out in the world, it's, where did we go to college? Who are we hanging around with, in business and our personal lives? So a lot of times our values are reflected by, reflected from the people we hang around with. So that's kind of what I'll say on that topic. So values can be complex, but you need to have some kind of base, I think.
Okay. So I've been hanging around you for maybe about 5, 6 years now. I'm not
My
sure if I'm
goodness.
picking up everything because you found a red flag in a client that I found. I thought it was good. We had a contract and everything. And when she told me she didn't want to pay me, and I was like, "What about the contract?" She's like, "Oh, that's null and void. I tore that up." I'm like, "Oh, that's exactly how contracts work." But you knew before I did.
Oh,
I, I don't know. Maybe I need another 5, 6 years to catch on.
I got a few more gray hairs, like I say.
Okay. So the next question is, how can small businesses build trust with new collaborative partners? So I thought it was me keeping my word, but like I said, I had no clue that she didn't want to pay me.
You got to understand that up front, and it's like DJ Strick says, you start small. If you don't know that person really well and you're looking to get in business together, then start small. Start on a few projects and see how they react. Not that people sometimes won't, string you along and things like that, but that's a good way to see, when you actually get into business and work on a small project together and see if you want to do more with them. So that's one way to build trust slowly. And trust doesn't happen overnight. Trust gets built up over time because that relationship, and you've learned that that person delivers on what they say, that they have integrity. And when that has been established in your relationship through building up through some of these smaller projects, now you know you can trust that person and and introducing them to your clients or whatever, and they are going to deliver on what they say they are. That, and then now you can move on to bigger projects because you built that trust with the person. But trust doesn't happen overnight. It's something that's built up, and one of the things as a consultant we want to do is really be considered by our clients, not only as a consultant to do this piecemeal piece of work or that, but to actually be a trusted advisor. So a systematic approach where you are the trusted advisor. And if you don't have that particular knowledge, that is where the collaboration comes in, because now you have some other trusted partners of your own that you can bring into the process. And that's kind of how I do it in my consulting business, is I'm building up that relationship long-term with the client. It's not a one hit, and then if they have something they need that I don't do or don't want to do, then I can bring in some trusted partners, and you're still acting as that trusted advisor to your client, because they're relying on you to connect them up with somebody that they can trust and on your advice. So I take that seriously too, and I would never recommend a sub-consultant or another consultant to one of my clients unless I knew very well that they would get treated right and reflect my same values. So that is, that's the long and the short of it, I guess. Rambled on about that one, but that's important. So,
Well, I think you just pointed out my problem. That I got a thing about being the holdup. I don't want to be the holdup. So whatever my part of the project is, I go ahead and do that, just so I won't be the holdup. So that could be the problem right there. I'm not taking things slow. Hey, Jimmy Newsom, the Impact influencer, is here with us. Hey, Jimmy, thanks for joining us. Appreciate you being here.
all right.
If you want to hop on with us, that's cool, because Jimmy knows a lot about being a collaborative partner and working with small businesses.
Hey,
Absolutely.
Tom.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going well. It's going well. This crazy schedule, man.
I understand.
Like, you
And
two
you're a
guys
lot
work
younger
the
than
most.
I finished
Jimmy,
the thing.
I know you had a ton of work to do today. I really do appreciate you being here. So thank you.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. So I'm waking up again. Just finished the presentation I have to do for tomorrow. So, and then I had to make a run, but I got back. So I'm like, all right, let me jump on real quick, see if you need me.
All right,
Looks like it's
appreciate
just
it.
you two here.
Yeah, we're just hanging out talking about collaboration. We were just talking about how do you know your values? How do you know what makes a good partner? And Thomas was telling me about who you hang out with, and I was telling him how I've hung out with him for like over 5-6 years, and I hadn't caught on yet because he knew about red flag clients before I did. So yeah, he's that good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
So,
unfortunately, it's called learning the hard way, and sometimes those are the best lessons where you
absolutely.
get totally thumped.
Oh yeah, you got to get in the water before you can know how cold it is.
Yeah, exactly. And
Jimmy, your voice is a
yeah,
little low.
Hold up. Yeah, for some reason my mic keeps resetting to this low setting. I don't know why it keeps doing that when I join. It's either too loud or too low. Is that better?
Yeah.
yeah.
So here's another question. What are some effective ways to resolve conflicts or misalignment expectations in partnerships?
Yeah, you just got to talk, and that's, I find that instead of ignoring it, just go to the person and sit down and talk. If you've selected the right partner in the first place that aligns with your values, then they're going to be receptive to that because they don't want things to go south either. And so that I think is important. It's like I said, I don't like to do written contracts necessarily, but sometimes if it's a big deal, you might want to, or at least, getting going. I'm kind of reluctant to do that just because I hate dealing with contracts and I'd rather deal with a straightforward, honest person that aligns with my values and know that if we have any challenges or difficulties, we can sit down and work them out. And I've done that, with folks. And, and usually if you selected the right collaboration partner, then they're going to be receptive. And if I'm not meeting the expectations that I present, that I should be in a job, I want to hear about it, and I would expect my collaboration partners to want to hear about it too, and we can work things out because ultimately what we're doing is we're providing a product or service to a customer, and we want them to be satisfied. We want them to be so satisfied they'll tell other people, and we get that word of mouth business that's so valuable. So if we're not doing that, then we need to figure that out. And the way to do that is talking, like I said, at Dunkin' Donuts.
Well,
Office away from the office.
yeah, you hit on a number of really important things because I was trying to figure out how it's going to breach the fact that you got to make sure that you selected the right partner in the first place. So you hit on that, and you hit on another very important part where, regardless of them being a partner, you have to treat them like a client. When you treat them like a client, it changes your whole mindset of there's a much bigger responsibility for you to be a better partner because you're acting like they're paying you, and now you have to deliver. Not that that should be the only reason that you should actually deliver, but it does provide a better framework for how do I treat this partner, and then of course you will get that post referral for other partnership opportunities because that's the objective here, is to leverage each other's resources. And I always say the triple win. The first win is for the end user. The second win is for the partner. And then if those two win, you win. And you win because, again, you selected the right partner for the right reason. And if the partnership is going well, you should be winning.
I like that.
Yeah.
I had a partnership with a lady. She told me that she liked how I did virtual events and she wanted me to work with her. And I was like, yeah, okay. And then she wanted me to work a week in a whole. And all of a sudden, my pride got very bruised. It's like, why would you tell me that you like my work and then you want me to work a week in a whole to see if I'm a good fit for this or not? Turns out I needed that week in a whole because what I was doing was not setting up virtual events. It was getting other people to set up virtual events. And I just told you, Thomas, I like to get things done so I can move on because I don't want to be the hold up. And all they cared about was being the hold up. And I was like, it was terrible, but I got through it. So we got one more video from DJ Strick. So let me share that real quick. And he's also answering the question about effective partnerships. Let me push the play button on that.
Businesses collaborating together. One of the things that I think makes them a good fit is their alignment on basic ideas of integrity. Okay? They don't have to automatically be doing the same thing. It's best that they are doing maybe partnership collaboration, but what I don't do, this other partner does. And I don't do, this partner does. That really works well to where you're kind of a puzzle piece for that other partner and they're a puzzle piece for you. And together you guys can make a bigger offer to a client that works as a great collaboration. You both have the same amount of skin in the game. You both have the opportunity to win on the same level from a monetization standpoint. That is where I think there is a good collaboration. Now, some of the red flags you want to look at is what I started with, which is integrity. How does that person do business? You should be watchful about the small things they do in their character. So no matter how much of collaboration or a puzzle piece they may be for you, if they don't have the right type of integrity for you and the business, you can really miss out. So I hope that answers your question.
That's it
Seems
from
like integrity is a common theme here.
yeah. I guess that's important.
It's very important. Yeah, I mean, it's critical to me. You know, it's just it comes. Yeah, I mean, it overrides everything else. I think so. And
Yeah. So,
even not just with business partners and collaboration partners, but in your own business, is you got to have integrity.
so you've never had a partner tell you that this contract doesn't count because they tore it up?
Well, I've had a few things go south. Yeah. It's learning the hard way, but.
Okay. Well, Jamie, let me ask you, have you ever had a collaboration fail, and what did you learn from it?
Oh yeah, I mean that's the whole part of you know doing what you do. I've definitely
I'm
had
sorry,
some.
Jimmy, I can't hear you.
You can't? Huh.
I can.
Oh, okay. Maybe it's me.
Can all right. Can you not hear me at all? Or
I
I
can hear
guess
you a
you
little
don't.
bit. It's just very low.
All right. Let me. My volume went down again. Huh. Maybe there's something. All right. So all right. How we doing? Good.
Yes.
Audio
Yeah.
good. Man. Yes, I've definitely had situations go bad, and again, that's how you learn. We're actually in the middle now of revamping our entire strategic partnership, and it's based on the fact that we've learned a lot. We tend to, as a small business, give a lot more because we want the partnership more, and so we sacrifice the fact that I tend to swim upstream quite a bit, and so the bigger partners sometimes are not as reliable as we want them to be. And part of it is because they feel they're bigger. They feel they need you more than you need them. And that's where at the beginning, it's almost like working for free. And after a while, you develop that tough skin. You develop, what it is that you bring to the table. You get confident with all of that, and then you learn for the next partnership. You learn for the next opportunity that comes by. Now, over the last, as of now, March 2011, between the beginning of the year and now, I've turned down a number of really big opportunities because either the audience didn't align, which to me is the number one thing, audience alignment, and you'd be surprised how many people don't overlook that or decide to not pay attention to it because they want the partnership. And you really got to make sure there's alignment with the audience. I mean, real alignment with the audience, knowing your persona, knowing who you cater to, knowing who you won't cater to. Prime example is really great opportunity. She actually introduced me to a really big partnership I'm going to have a conversation with on Friday. But we realized as we were talking about partnerships, our audiences don't match. And I was very happy that she actually brought it up because I would have had to, because my audience are small business owners, typically up to $1 million in revenue, solopreneurs up to maybe 10, 15 people in the business. Her client base starts at 20 people to 400 in for her target audience. Anywhere from 20 to 40 million in revenue. And we were both like, And I said, we can't do anything. All my content, everything that I produce is geared towards that smaller business. Do I have clients? I have a client that's doing about probably 20, 25 million, but that's a client. That's not the partnership side of what we look to partner with for moving forward small business. So I don't have programming and training for that size business, and I don't want to create it because I'm already on my path for the audience that I really do serve, that I do want to build partnerships around. So that was a lesson to go. On the surface it looks great for partnership, but it's not going to work. And that was a hard lesson with other organizations. Another thing I've learned is, especially when you're swimming upstream with bigger organizations, you have to figure out a way to make sure you understand what their goals are, or their annual goals, what their strategic plan is for the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, because they're not as willing to pivot as we are as smaller businesses. So I've managed to be able to understand what they're doing and then figure out, can my services support their objectives? And if it can, and we also have the same audience, then we can start to talk a little bit more about a long-term strategy about partnerships. And that's one of the things that we're revamping, so it makes easier. So the call I have on Friday, as of this recording, is a really, really big partner, and I've done my due diligence on them. And 60% of their audience needs what we have, and they don't necessarily have that. So that will be like the gentleman DJ, I think that may be his name, is a situation where I know where the value is, and I know where I'm going to start the conversation when it's my turn to talk.
May I ask, small business owners, how did you determine that they would be your audience?
Because first of all, you can't say everybody needs my service. When I ever hear that, I run in the opposite direction, because they haven't learned their lesson yet, and they're not taking me on that trip with them. And you have to, 99% of all businesses are small, at least in the United States. And we determined that how we're going to measure the size of a small business, we adopted the same structure as the SBA, which said a small business is $36 million or less, which you would consider a pretty big business, but they're considering that small. But it also depends on the industry, and 1,500 employees or less. So that's a massive swath of small business. But then within that are subsets of small businesses, people who are making $0 to $100,000, people who are making $100,000 to $500,000, people making $500 to $1 million, and then $1 million to $5 million. Each one of those sections requires a different strategy, a different way of looking at business. And as we started to segment ourselves out, we realized we're $1 million and under. So within that $1 million to $0 to $1 million, it's still some subsets, but we have training that could stretch across that. And now we're clearer on what that looks like. So now we can be clearer on when we're doing a discovery call with a potential partner, to really dive deep and go, what does that mean? What really is the audience, so we can determine, is this a starting point for a really great partnership opportunity?
Okay. Thomas, I know you work with, help me say it. I'm crossing my fingers. Small municipalities? Is that close?
I work with small water utilities, I guess. So under 3,000 connections, which is how they define water utilities. So I'm really kind of a niche market per se. So it's a public utility usually, or there's different classifications, but it's under 3,000 connections. And that defines, one connection to one house, for instance. And so that's basically how, my niche gets defined. So
Okay. So, and this question is actually on the list, Thomas. So I know you don't really care for contracts, but how do you recommend structuring collaborations to ensure both parties benefit, without a contract?
it just comes down to expectations is really, and I'm not saying I'm against contracts. I just, like I say, they take up a lot of time to really do a big contract, so for these small guys, it's usually, I have a 2-pager I do that I define the task on the front and all the terms are in the back. And that's pretty much what I use. It's been reviewed by an attorney. So for a collaboration, I may sign that task order with the particular client, and then the people I've vetted that I'm collaborating with understand that they have this specific role and I have this specific role, and that's kind of what we're doing. And then the big part of it is, how do we get paid? As a service business, as a consultant, I'll work for my collaboration partners. Sometimes they'll work for me. So usually there's going to be, they're going to, if they're working for me, they will discount their rate like 15 to 20% to me. So I can charge the normal rate. And then, so I'm getting a discount and I'll do the same thing, back the other way. So it's defining the scope, who's working on what. And then, whose name is going to be on the report, and then defining how we're going to get paid. That's it. What the expectations are for what you're going to get paid, and it's usually, as a consultant, you're usually charging an hourly rate. Sometimes I'll do, I'm doing more when I'm just working on things my own, a fixed fee. But if you're working with somebody else, a lot of times it's hourly, and then so they're going to discount their rate to me. So that's generally how I structure it, real quick.
All right. So, how can small businesses leverage collaboration to expand their reach and visibility? So once you said before, Thomas, that if you do a good job, people will recommend you. It's been my experience, if you do a good job, people don't want anybody else to know about you, or else you'll be too busy for them. At least that's what I've been told. So, how do you deal with that?
I think most people are going to refer you. I just, before we got on this call, I just had somebody that called me and they got referred. This guy that referred me out, he had referred me to two other people that led to work. So, he was a satisfied customer, and he knows he basically builds ponds for fish farms, and they need water. So I'm locating wells for them and telling them where to drill and how to construct their well. And so this guy is referring, I keep getting leads. And so he was pretty happy that he got water for his fish farm, and now he's telling people about me. So it's like I say, I wouldn't have guessed that here in Middle Tennessee that we have as many fish farms as we do, but apparently I keep getting calls for these people that all came from the one person. So my
Nice.
experience is that people will refer you out, and I know that I do. When I find a service that I like, I'm going to share that with people, and whether it's a driller or something like that, I'm going to share that with other folks, or software, whatever, I'm going to refer that out to people. So I haven't seen a lot of people trying to keep it to themselves personally. I don't know. How about you, Jimmy?
Yeah.
Yeah, from what I'm hearing, from what I'm now I'm getting an understanding. Like we're looking at partnerships from a couple of different perspectives here. It looks like Tom, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. And also for make sure I got that DJ, right? That's who the video guy was.
Oh,
DJ?
DJ Strick? Yes.
Yeah, DJ. Is looking at it from two companies partnering to service a client. Is that what I'm understanding there with that strategic
That's right.
partnership? Right. And so I'll do that occasionally. But what I usually look for in a partnership is I'm actually looking for a one-to-many situation. So I'm looking to partner with the organization that serves the small business community as a whole, which ends up being a different type of strategic partnership where I'm looking at how can I help serve their client base on a massive scale, which is different for when I'm partnering with someone for say SEO, and they're a digital market agency and they want me to come in and do just the SEO. Then yeah, to me there would be some level of a contract I want to do because like Tom said, I'll discount my price or vice versa, and so I want to lock that price in. And yeah, I mean it's the fact that they may or may not, they might covet you and not share. I haven't really experienced that, but I don't look for that much work. I always look for these bigger picture situations for serving an audience because of the type of business moving forward small business is, which is different than Jimmy Newsom Consulting, which is an actual service-based business. So when I look for those bigger situations, then there will be some level of some tracking mechanism which could be the contract or us divvying up how we might work on things. And I've been very lax in that, and that's why we're revamping that, because we have to produce a lot of something, whether it's producing an entire program, or creating new assets, or having an organization like a university is going, we want you to come in and produce content with us. But at the end of the day, they're really saying we want to own the content. So instead of having you do it yourself, we want you to come in and do it in our facility for this and that. And they want to take ownership. And now we have to really talk about that, because now we're talking residuals. You're going to pay me one time and you're going to sell it forever and ever. And again, that's a different type of partnership. And that's where we find ourselves going into, to go, well, we need to really talk about, who owns it. And if I have to do a ton of work, is it really a partnership, or should I just charge you a lot of money to produce this stuff, and you can do whatever the hell you want to do with it, and I'm out, because it might be too much of a pain in the butt to track royalties, to track these things. So that's kind of where I'm starting to fall into the puzzle. We're trying to license out our programs. We have a lot of content. So we're looking at licensing deals or partnership deals where we work together. So that's going to now start to require a contract, which is why we're doing this whole revamp around our strategic partnerships strategies. But like, go back to the original question, it all depends. If I'm doing one-on-ones to service a client, then maybe they might feel like they want to keep me as a secret. When I've done those partnerships, I'm not on the contract of their clients. I'm kind of in the background, and I'm fine with that. As long, my biggest problem is typically when there's a problem with the client and I can't talk to the client, and I'm the only one that has the answer that they're looking for. That I've run into a problem a few times.
Well, I can't keep a secret. I tell everybody that Jimmy knows the answer, so I tell people.
I've heard you say.
Yeah, and it's, that is a good point, because I'm niched down really far. So, I'm really doing these one-to-one stuff, and you're dealing with a, much bigger audience. So it does make a difference. So I totally agree with that. But it's, it's that whole spectrum. And, when you're dealing with a lot more people, it tends to get a lot more formal, I think, or you got to have some formality to it. I'm dealing with people most of the time I know, or having, and so it can be, a lot less formal. So, which is kind of how I prefer it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, simplicity is always the key here. And, so I had a really great relationship with a colleague for quite a few years, where I just did a lot of work for his clients. And again, my biggest issue I ran into was trying to explain things to him so he can explain it to them. And then they come back with something that I'm going, nope, that's not right. You got to do it this way. And he goes back to them. And I was like, this is way too much back and forth. This is way too much work. It's very confusing. And I get it on behalf of the client, and I feel like I can't service the client as well as I could, and understanding still it's their client. So I stopped taking a lot of stuff from them, because I felt my hands were tied a lot.
Understandable. Let me ask, what are some creative collaboration ideas that small businesses might not have considered? Like, let me tell you this part, Jimmy. When Thomas did his Event Innovator Insight session talk, I think that's when I figured out that all collaborations aren't free.
Okay.
So that was like aha moment for me right there. So he says, this is a business and we're in business to get paid. So when you collaborate, there should be some money, and because everybody needs to feed their family. So
All right. Yeah.
Well, the goal is to make money, and it's like DJ Strick said, it's, our goal of doing these partnerships in business is to make money, otherwise why, we might as well be a charity. And now I appreciate charities, but I'm not a not-for-profit, or not, let me put it this way. I'm not an intentional not-for-profit.
Yeah, and I guess that's where, to get clarity now, I had to think about what you were saying for a second, and I see that in more of that one-on-one. Somebody's got to pay somebody because they were paying me. That particular, I had numerous partnerships like that, and they paid me for my service because it was discounted, and then they resold it. So yes, you shouldn't be doing in those situations. You definitely shouldn't be doing anything for free unless you're forming an LLC. And everybody is an equal partner of whatever this thing is that you created. But if it's more of a strategic partnership like that, yes. When I do the bigger partnerships, sometimes I'll look for rev shares. The partnership I would like to do on Friday is going to be more of a, pass my services on through to their members, and we split it. So I want to offer them a percentage off of what I sell, and then they sell it to the masses, and whoever buys. That way, they have an incentive to make a little bit more to make money that they may not have made on top of having the partnership. So again, there's another a form of, all right, I can give you a money in addition to that, so it's not costing me, and we both make money.
I understand that. That makes sense. Thomas, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I think one thing that I found is that you might think of somebody out there as a competitor, but there are circumstances that you can define where you may, instead of being a competitor, you might be a collaboration partner. So most people think of things that they think of, well, this is my competition, and we're never going to do business with them. But if you start thinking outside the box a little bit, then you can find that some of your competitors might be good collaboration partners in certain circumstances, and you need to find what those are, and you need to understand too, both parties need to understand, this is where the talking comes into play, is that we're still going to be competitors in these different areas, but we can team up in these particular areas and do some business and make some money and some, hopefully be profitable. And we're not necessarily competitors there. I think most businesses that think they're competitors will have some overlap, but they're going to be areas where they don't overlap. And those are the business collaboration opportunities. So somebody who's you define as a natural competitor might be, in the right circumstances, be a collaboration partner. So that would be one thing to look at. Think outside the box a little bit. I know that's a well-worn, beam, but it really does count, is because you got to think of doing things in different ways. Especially for a small business, is you can't just be in that silo by yourself. You got to reach out to some of these people who might be natural, who you define as competitors, but you might have some common ground.
And that's
All right.
actually and I like to piggyback off of that really quick because that's a great point. And I've done it, and I have a client that currently is doing that now, where, so if you want looking for another opportunity, they are direct competitors with a really big event partner. But the event partner gets a lot of requests for events they consider too small. And so what they've been able to do is partner, and they actually pass all of the events that don't meet their criteria because they're too small off to my client. And that has resulted in at least $500,000, if not more, additional dollars because of that partnership. And now that my client has turned into a sub vendor for them. And so that is another way where you can address a sub audience of a bigger partner, because they might just realize that it's too much resources to service that client, because they have to service it the same way they service a client that pays them 10 times as much. And so that's what I look for. And now I'm saying that's what I look for with these bigger partners, to go, maybe you're not paying as much attention to the small business sector because you do have a bigger swath of ideal profiles. let us come in and focus a little bit more on those smaller ones because you're neglecting them a little bit. And we can actually help you continue to keep them happy. And now they look good, you look good, and we all look good.
Yeah. I want to shout out the strategy alignment and execution membership because Jimmy has a whole framework on collaborations and partnerships. If you get a chance, check it out because it's a really nice framework and it's one of my favorites. So, how do you see the landscape of small business collaborations evolving over the next few years? You see more people partnering together, working together, or doing their own thing?
All right, I'll start there. It's really up to them. They have to see the value of a strategic partnership. Partnerships are always going to be around. It's just a matter of and again, my personal opinion, it's just a matter of are they taking advantage of it? Is it part of their strategic objective? That's one of our main goals for the year is to do better strategic partnerships. So that's actually in our strategic roadmap for 2025. So we've made it a key component and we've dropped a lot of other stuff because we realize we have some pretty audacious goals between now and the end of the year. And we realize those strategic partnerships are going to be key to us hitting that goal. So we made it that important for us. So I think strategic partnerships are always going to be a strong component if the business owner makes it that. Strategic partnerships just don't happen. You have to want it and you have to prepare for it and you have to go after it. They're not just going to fall in your lap.
I can see that. I've noticed Thomas had told me about he wanted younger people interested in clean water. He wanted younger people to be interested in the tools, the machinery, and because of people that does his job are aging out. And I see him partnering with younger people, and I'm like, he's making this stuff come true. So yeah, I like that,
I would
Thomas.
I would also add, as far as the landscape goes, you need to take into account the economic picture because, signs are kind of pointing possibly to a recession. But certainly, the whole, thing with tariffs and things like that is certainly going to upset the landscape. I think I kind of understand where things are going, but if you're moving into a potential recession, then I think that business collaborations are probably going to be more important than ever, especially for really small businesses, because you're teaming together and overcoming these obstacles because, recessions are going to provide some economic challenges to people. So a business collaboration, instead of just standing on your own, a business collaboration may help you weather those harder times. How deep of a recession we go into, right now it's just kind of like we're looking at it. There's signs pointing that direction, but certainly we're seeing the economic landscape being changed markedly. So that can strengthen small businesses by having collaboration partners and allow them to weather some of those economic downturns that we might face.
Absolutely. And to add back on top of that, when you think about these strategic partnerships, again, it comes back to if and I'll give you an example. So if we know what we do well around growth strategy. And looking at this partner, I keep going back to on Friday because it's a really great example of I did my due diligence to see what they were missing, especially when I align it with what they say they're supposed to stand for small businesses as well. And I know it will cost a lot of money to produce what we have if they had to do it internally. So that strategic partnership, and especially if it's on their the roadmap going, we need to do more in this area, that strategic partnership will go, look, we've already got it. So let's work on how we can now partner together because we have this solution. You have that solution. Neither one of us has to come out of pocket to do it because it would cost us more with financial investments as well as human capital. We can come together and now we have it and it's sturdy, it's stable, and we can actually move forward and start to beat out some of our other competitors who may, again, be standing more on their own and not have one or the other, and start to separate each other from our own individual competition.
I like that. You guys know I love my tools, love the SaaS, love the tech. So, what tools or platforms do you recommend for managing, streamlining collaborations, or do you use any for this? No?
Tom? Yeah, I do, but
Well, yeah, we're moving more into AI agents, for especially for the water utilities is who are most of the time going to be resource constrained, both on staff and financial. So whatever we can do to, help them with predictive maintenance and asset management plans and some of that esoteric stuff that they need to do, then we're working on that. And those tools are really helping save a lot of time and money. And they're getting, I mean, it's getting scary good, just in such a hurry. So that's probably one of the big things. But just kind of systematizing things for people. And if you're building a system, then different collaboration partners can fit into that system. And so we're really trying to systematize things where you get your BMPs and your SOPs, and that is going to save, if especially if you have staff constraints, which most small water utilities do, then that's going to save a lot of time and effort. And different people, I'm no expert in HR, so I might team up with somebody who can come in and build some AI agents that can help them with their HR component. I can help them with the spreadsheets and the asset management, but and you get this stuff down, and then that's going to save them a lot of time, and they're going to be able to deal more, do more with less with their same staff and get things done because most small water utilities are always behind, especially in maintenance. So if we can use the AI models, the AI agents to do, if nothing else, predictive maintenance, then that's going to save them a lot of time and effort. And so teaming on those things is with partners who understand the different components is going to be very important. So that's probably one of the big tools. I mean, that's pretty obvious one, but there you go.
well, I think it needs to be said. So thank you for
Yeah.
definitely. And yeah, and so when we talk about tools, and again, this is when you think about moving forward small business, innovation, technology, and strategy. So to me, those are three tools that can be leveraged. And what we try to do is teach the partners, which is why we have that framework on partnerships. And we also, we just did an SOP at the end of last year, SOP framework to really dive into the SOPs because then it comes back to having that initial conversation, like Tom said, to get clarity around who manages it. And so then what tools might be available based on the person managing it. Sometimes it can be difficult to get the other partner to adapt to the tools that you're using. But then again, it all depends on who's responsible for what. I know I use a lot of tools. I know you do, Erica, and I'm sure you definitely do, Tom, as you said. You got AI agents popping up. But what I try to do, and and Erica being in the group, is really about be the one who starts the conversation about the strategic partnership. So it puts a lot of that opportunity in your pocket to be the leader, be the one that controls the partnership flow because you have the ability to do that. You want to do that, and it puts you in a position to get better at it so you can do more of them. So when it comes to tools, it's really to me the tools are going to be based on, well, who are you, what do you do, and what is it that you're trying to achieve with the partner? Because you can use so many different tools, from an SOP management tool to a project management tool to AI agents to whatever, but it's really based on, when my conversation on Friday happens, I'm not going to talk about tools. We're going to talk about goals and the end result. And then we're going to back into all the stuff because we're going to have to talk about that in a longer conversation if the discovery call goes well. To go, this is great. I think we can do something together. Now let's talk about everything that would be involved, including use of resources. And resources include, again, human capital, if there's a financial investment on both sides, whether it's through advertising or we both need to acquire something, a specific tool. And then, of course, the technology that we're going to use to manage the partnership so we have a better opportunity of success for everybody involved.
So really the processes, the systems and the processes, the tools fall within that is really what it comes down to. So you have the individual tools, the technology tools, but really you got to have the systems and processes in place, and that's going to make you more efficient. 'Cause I see in the water utility business, the people that don't have plans, they don't have a system or a process, and they're they get pipeline failures and they get valves failing and they don't know, and it just ends up costing them more because things never break, during regular business hours. It's always going to be 3 a.m. on Christmas Eve, or something like that. So by having, the whole system in place where you're replacing these things, you're understanding what your landscape is as far as when things are going to break, and that's a predictive maintenance stuff. It's part of the whole system and process for keeping things up to date and up to speed on making sure you're replacing your equipment when it needs to be replaced, budgeting for that accordingly. That's all. We can talk about the individual tools, but I think it's exactly what Jimmy does is he's creating systems and processes for people and working them into that. And that's just going to make your time and your spending, really count. It's going to be a lot more efficient than haphazard business management skills.
Absolutely. And again, you put yourself in a position of power. They can depend on you. You don't have to wait for them. Sometimes you're giving them the orders and sometimes they need that. And as long as the work is getting done, I'm good with that.
Yeah. It's nice when the work gets done.
Yeah.
I once heard Jimmy say you have to have a purpose for your tool usage. I think that fits here too.
Yeah, I mean, again, the tools go back into, I think too many people just use the tool because they heard it was hot.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, you're not going to use the tool just because people told you. People recommend tools to me all day, and I have to bite my tongue and not be like, no, I'm not going to use the tool because you told me. I'll investigate the tool and see, does it fit with what I'm trying to accomplish?
He's talking about me.
No, I'm not talking about you. I'm actually talking about someone else. But you do recommend a lot of tools to me from AppSumo, and I want to scream at you a couple of times. I'm just like, stop with all those. It's great, but their time sucks.
Yeah,
they are.
That's true.
It needs to make sense. The use of the tool has to make sense in your overall system. So I agree.
Yeah. Thomas, let me start off this question with you because you have told me that you are a solopreneur, but you do reach out to people for collaborations. So the question is, if a business owner is hesitant to collaborate, what advice would you give to them to overcome their concerns?
I think it's just a matter of, this kind of a hard question, I guess, but it's an obvious one is, we've talked about it earlier, is just showing them the results and letting them know that they don't have to stand on their own. They can collaborate with people, they can reach more customers, and we're all in business to reach more customers. So that's it's fairly simple to me. It should be obvious, and you can give them examples. For instance, we have right here in town, we had a play. I hooked up a couple people. I got nothing out of the deal, but I connected up two businesses, which is kind of fun because one was supplying some herbal products, the other was a thermography outfit, and so they did medical treatment, but they also sold some natural products in there. So we connected these people up and had they had a successful collaboration. So that is something that never would have happened or unlikely to happen if we hadn't made that connection, just because I knew the two people and said, you guys can do business together, and they both benefit from it. So, just showing them the examples of, where 2 + 2 = 5 is really what it comes down to is, probably, a pretty good way to convince people that they should at least consider the benefits of collaboration.
Nice. Okay, Jimmy, how about you? Do you feel like you need to convince people, or do you just show them with your actions? Because I know you believe in teams, you believe in assistance.
Yeah, I guess two things. One, 2 + 2 = 5. Definitely going to use that because that is that's strategic partnerships. I mean, you do that, and the outcome is tremendous if it happens to be the right time and in everything. Where 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4 anymore. And it's and two, just to get clarity on your question. When you first asked that, I thought you were talking about if I'm trying to partner with someone who doesn't know if they want to partner, but you're just talking about people who are on the fence about partnership.
Yeah.
Yeah, people on the fence about partnerships. Yeah, you got to show them. I do. I've spent a lot of last year talking about strategic partnerships. I spoke at it at a colleague of mine's event a couple of times that he does throughout the year in the New Jersey area. And it's a hot topic. And it's a hot topic because people haven't thought about it, or they haven't thought about it to the point where they're like, wait a minute, this is an actual strategy. And I'm like, yes, a strategy. It's a growth strategy, and when you understand that potential, it's really about, oh, well, I've done stuff with people, but I didn't realize I can get anything out of it. And I'm just like, that's where now you've taken the blue pill, and now you're seeing what's really possible when you actually think about the strategy and the structure around crafting a really great partnership and then targeting potential partners that would be. And again, this goes back to my triple win. You have to figure out, if you're going to initiate partnerships, what's the value that the other partner is going to get. And in order to figure that out, you have to do your research on them before you even get on that discovery call. If they're, that's where you're leveraging technology and I guess it also depends on what you're doing as a what your business is, what industry your business is in. But there are tools out there for I would say almost every industry that allows you to get the insight on them to figure out what they're doing. I mean, you can even look at press releases. If they're doing that, again, if they're big enough, they're doing press releases where they're announcing stuff. What are they announcing? If they're spending their time and energy to put out messages, marketing messages in all forms, advertising, whatnot, they're trying to get in front of an audience. So how can you step in and help them with that process? So that's one of the first places I'll start with going, this is how you determine if this person, I learned something really great from a salesperson once, and they're like, how I prospect new people to advertise and this is back in the newspaper time. This is how I process. I only go after people who are already running ads in other papers. And it goes, and you would think they're like, well, why would you go? They've already spent the money. No, they have budgets, and if they're advertising somewhere, if you can show them a better use of that same advertising dollar, or just give them more exposure for their advertising spend, they're already there. You don't have to convince them to actually advertise, because that's the pushing the rock up the hill. And so when you see people doing those things, they're trying to get a message out. And if their audience and your audience aligns, and you can figure out a way to support them with what you have, there's a great recipe for potential partnership. So it's really about looking at the green flags, let's call it, instead of the red flags, and understanding how am I going to prospect people and do it in a way that it's an easier opportunity, it's an easier sell.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. But we should be wrapping up here soon. So Jimmy, the Impact Influencer, host and facilitator of Moving Forward Small Business, and I almost had it. I was going to be so smooth with it too. Strategy, alignment, and execution membership. Yeah. Would you please let people know where they can find you on social?
I spend all my time on LinkedIn. I'm on all the other platforms, but I couldn't care less about them. I'll just be straight with you. I'm on I got a TikTok account. I think I got one video in 1 year. Maybe I'll leverage it, but that'll be someone else. But LinkedIn is my favorite platform. It allows me to show my expertise and the expertise of the organization for the people that we serve. The other platforms, I tend to be a little too businessy, so I get a lot of less chatter on those accounts, and I get it. I'm just not that personal.
All right. So, Thomas, where's your favorite social media hangout spot?
I'm a LinkedIn guy too, so I have tried other platforms and just don't get much traction. So my people are there on LinkedIn, so I'm a LinkedIn fan. So
Yeah.
All right. So, is there anything that you want people to come away from this conversation about collaboration? What do you want them to know about collaboration, or at least take away from this conversation?
To me, everybody has something to give, to contribute. You have to make sure you know what it is that makes you unique and special. I know that sounds cheesy as all outdoors, but it is so true. And I think when I meet someone, they go, I do this, this, and this, and I can do this for you as well. And this, you just lose the person. So get very clear on that one or two things that you do really well that you could help them with. And then figure out who would make a great partner, and then do your homework on them. So when you go to the table, they're impressed with you, and they're in a better position to want to figure out how to work with you.
Very good. Thomas?
just don't be afraid to think outside the box. I know that's kind of a well-worn, phrase, but it really is true in this case because business collaborations, they may show up where you least expect them. Like we talked about competitors earlier that you think might be your competitors. Really look for the possibilities because you're leveraging your own business and they're leveraging theirs and you're going to benefit from it.
All right. Well, mine is if you're scared, do it anyway because it will help you. I've been scared to do a lot of things, and when I've done them anyway and it worked out, it really was for the best. I complained to Jimmy that his frameworks were too long, but you know what? I did them the day that he gave the frameworks, and it worked out. It wasn't so bad. So, yeah, if you're scared, do it anyway. So this is Erica Bates. This is the Virtual Summiteers Peer Group. I'm also the host of Talk Virtual. If you want to hear more great talks like this, join the Virtual Summiteers Peer Group. Bye for now.
Good evening, everyone.
So I have stopped the